Hi, everybody watching this live or after we record this. Today's topic is going to be a continuation of the last time I had a little talk about data analytics and we connected with experience economy. So today we're going to deep dive more into the practical things about return on investment, and I'm going to show you some case studies we ideate on how to use virtual reality in your day-to-day business. Short introduction. My name is Filip Živalić. I'm the PhD student in virtual reality implementation in creative industries, but also in hospitality. There's a lot of complementary things we can learn from that. And I'm also research and development team member inside VR Hotel. And today webinar series, it's about maximizing hotel return on investment by using data. And today we're going to talk about what type of data to use and to tackle some misconceptions about using data in hospitality. So every hotelier had said this sentence somewhere in their career or heard it in a meeting. It's the founding myth of the hospitality marketing. So decades of experience compressed into a single confident feeling that you have. And today I want to make a case that this feeling, however earned after your long career on years of experience, is no longer enough in order to make good decisions. Intuition is not wrong exactly, but is incomplete because it was built on a slower, more predictable industry. Only 10 years ago, having a gut feeling, having insight in situation was something you can be proud of. But in today's market, highly dynamic market, guest expectations shift by season, by the platform, and even by the week. So intuition alone can keep up, and it also has a blind spot. It can tell you when it's wrong. So gut feeling and intuition, it's a good thing, but think about future and dynamic markets you are working now. One of my books I had to read during my dissertation was The Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And if you read something about behavioral economy, you will know this author. But he also said like he spent a career studying this. So intuition is a pattern recognition. It works brilliantly in a stable, repetitive environment. But hospitality guest behavior in today, 2026, is not really stable, and it's not really a repetitive environment. So the patterns of the people keeps changing. Something that worked like 2 seasons ago, today it's not working the same way. And I think the most websites they say suck because Hippo create them. So Kushnik coined the Hippo, and it means the highest paid person's opinion to describe decisions made by authority instead of the evidence. You all know somebody who is above your pay grade making decisions, but everybody above them just listen to what they say. So it's not just websites, it's the pricing call made by the general manager because he has a feeling about the season. It's a lot of biases, and it's about removing the human judgment from the decision making. I want to say that most people, when they tackle these kind of problems, they say, let's collect all the data. So the instinctive fix, it's not about having enough data and more data. It's about having right data. So every channel, every touch point, every click, you shouldn't collect it all. And I think the most hotels go wrong because they think more information means better information. But if you look at the theory, even in one of the famous books by the Nate Silver, he says there's a problem in forecasting because it maps directly onto the guest data. If you have a million loosely relevant records, you don't add up to an insight. They add up to a noise. So one precise, well understood data point beats 1,000 vague ones. And this all isn't all theoretical. In 2025, industry report by the Revinate and Hapi found that data quality, not data volume, is actually blocking hotels from delivering a personalized experience guest expectations. So the hotels aren't short on data, they are short on usable data. To be fair, I'm not saying that a lot of data is a bad thing, because there's a reason some firms, some industries collect a lot of data. Big data has its place for the micro pricing models, revenue management, demand forecasting across the whole portfolio. That's exactly where the volume helps, because you're smoothing out the noise across the thousands to find a trend. But the mistake is applying the same logic, more is better, to the individual guest experience, where precision beats volume every time. If you work in the hospitality, you know you can collect a lot of data, but having a right insight on people, their behavioral patterns can be much more and much better than having huge amounts of data that you have to store somewhere, and you have to know how to use advanced analytics to smooth them out. So let's see what are the mediums most common in this space. Before we get to the VR, I would like to say something about what came before it, because each medium taught us something and each one hit a wall. So the brochures, and how many brochures were taken out of the reception desk. Maybe you can count them, but you still don't know who took one or what happened next. That's the data with almost no signal. If you had any unfortune to print a lot of brochures and put them on the table, on the check-in desk, the only thing you know is how much brochures have you printed and how many of them were took out. But you don't know what people done with them. They could throw it in the bin, or they could really buy something. But you don't know any way of measuring the success rate of this type of medium to communicate your offerings. Next ones, if you think about it, conversations are the most valuable ones, because a good concierge they can have the highest quality data you'll ever get. Speak with the people, you get real preferences, real hesitations in the guest's own words. The catch is it depends entirely on which staff member is on the shift, because you can scale past the one guest at a time. And that's the real reason why the good concierges are paid high salary, because they can understand behaviors of the people. They can translate you all the problems, all the things people having problems have, and the insights on innovation you can do by just speaking with the people and noticing the right patterns and behaviors. The next ladder that we are now in the modern economy is the website analytics. You can count the clicks, time on the page, drop-off points. It's generally really useful, but it's not really scalable. I mean, it's scalable, but in the sense that you have a great tools to understand the pattern recognition. It tells you what happened, but not why it happened. So you have all these different tools for understanding the why. The guest abandoning your spa offering, spa page could mean not interested, but also I love it and I got distracted and I need to come back again. And now you can see in the last few years, there's a great pipeline of understanding if I have this hook on my website that's connecting to some automation tool, I can target those people if I see they were on the page for some amount of time, and then I can give them a pop-up meeting like later in the evening. But it's always understanding the pipeline behind what data is collected. And I want to make a case for virtual reality that is the newest medium, and it closes that gap to understand why people do something. So it's the first medium that captures not just what guests engaged with, but where they looked, how long they lingered with their eyes, so where they get stuck, and what pulled their focus, where they are fully immersed in the experience. They are not half distracted by everything else around them. If you picture like average person nowadays, you come to the hotels or you open your TV, you have phone on one hand, and then you have all these distractions around you. Virtual reality headsets has one of the perks, and that is it occupies one of the most important receiving organs in our bodies. Because when you put your headset, you put your glasses, you are really focused into the experiences, what are being shown in the real time. So you are not that distracted by the content consumed. And I just want to make one quick note before we dive in. that the next two stories I'm going to show you, like real case studies, they are built from the real patterns we see in the industry. So it's not one specific property, but I'm sharing them because I think the patterns are the valuable part, not individual numbers. Soon, into virtual reality VR Hotelo, we will have the real customer data, but we need to do all this GDPR talking with the clients to get the approval to show you the real numbers. So let's just use two fictive companies, but with the real patterns we are seeing in the real world. So the first one, let's imagine we are the coastal boutique hotels. So we have the pre-season wellness package sales dip. So the instinctive move for a lot of marketing managers is to slash prices 30% and then blast the entire email list and advertising. If you ever did email newsletter, you know you have to open the MailChimp, make all the mails, pay by the thousands of people, and then optimize everything. But your real motivation is just, to boost pre-season sales. And you don't have to finish PhD to know that if you slash price it, the demand will go up. But in our work, the reason to do all of this, it's not to destroy the value and prices in order to drive the demand, but having genuine insights in how to do it in a smarter way. So if you did a gut feeling, you say, just guests don't want it, discount it, just let's get rid of it. But if you look at the web traffic analysis, you can have a completely different story. So let's say Scandinavian guests are heavily browsing spa pages of your hotel, but only on the days the local forecast is predicted to rain. So demand wasn't the problem, the checkout was. And this is a classic case of misreading the signal and blaming the guest interest level when the actual friction is an unoptimized checkout flow. It's an easy trap. You assume the customer isn't interested when the process is the real barrier. So price stays the same, and we can fix the checkout flow and set an automated campaign as a pop-up inside our own automation or our own pipeline as a pop-up of an email sequence targeted only on the Scandinavian guests and the actual weather forecast. And you have the meaningful sales lift with the margin fully protected. I want to say that this type of thinking is understanding that you don't have to slash the prices to increase the demand. You just have to reframe the question and understand what is the decision-making process. So this case study, the real reason behind this case study is for you to understand that the medium and having website analytics is the valuable thing inside of this. But let's take the second case study about virtual reality. So let's say you're a luxury resort and you want to upsell something at the check-in and you have a premium excursions. Let's say we are now in Croatia, you have your hotel in Dubrovnik, famous place, and you want to upsell the excursions and room upgrades on the reception, but it isn't really moving. And no matter how far you push your staff at the counter, the sales doesn't increase. So gut feeling is push harder, have the education, print nicer brochures. We have to understand, to overly explain people what they are missing really if they are not buying this type of stuff. But imagine this. In-room data shows you a completely different story. Guests at the check-in have just come off of a flight or a long drive. They are not evaluating offers. They are trying to get them in the room. This lines up with a decade of decision fatigue. And research shows us when somebody's cognitive load is already maxed out, adding one more choice doesn't sell it, it repels it. So guest research shows exactly this gap. Huge willingness to pay for a tailored experience, but big shortfall because people actually don't feel like they are receiving personalized experiences. So the gap is where the upsell revenue is hiding. And then if we remove this pressure entirely from the check-in desk to the install VR in the room, we can start to target something far better. So the data showed something staff never would have guessed. Guests only start browsing excursions and amenities on the day 2 of their trip, around 6 p.m. Once they actually settled in. So instead of targeting them at the point of check-in, you targeted them at the content inside the VR room on their second day around 6 p.m. And using VR Hotello, we can also put the content where you need it, inside of the virtual reality headsets. And it's completely cost effective because you don't have to print anything. You don't have to change anything using, advanced algorithms. You just put the content inside of the room for this type of people. And I will say this is the core idea of my whole talk, that every medium before and each step could tell you something if somebody clicked, scrolled, or asked a question. But the VR tells you where their eyes went and for how long. And the massage room, they find the lingered, and the beach dinner shot, they turned out had backs to twice. So that means that people are looking different kind of contents and you can see what they are doing. I will say that VR Hotello put the headset in the room so the guests can experience this type of stuff before they buy. Instead of using the screens or the brochures, they can immerse themselves into the event before they decide on anything. So in that sense, let's put up some numbers to the whole of my point of understanding. So understanding the idea behind this, that this type of experiences hold attention much longer than traditional formats that I know of. And of course, that better entertainment for the guest means better data for the hotelier. This is not surveillance in that sense. It has to feel good for the guests also. And it has to be generally enjoyable. And inside VR Hotello, we have a dedicated team of understanding what type of experience people really want. So if you put VR Hotello headset now, you have the music, you have the movies, and you also have the games. So we are really working hard to understand what people want to experience inside of this virtual reality, and also for you to upsell your own experience. And a lot of people really want to buy if they feel understood. And I think this micro personalization is something we will do best on the market. One really important thing to understand is that I used a lot of data analytics to explain the world around me, but I come also from advertising and I know about the creativity. And we shouldn't use statistics as a drunken man used the lamppost for support rather than illumination. So what I mean by this is you have to understand that data only takes you so far. It's up to you to give it the context to understand it, and not to use data for post-rationalization, but to use data to be inspired, and then use your managerial experience, market research to put this into the perspective. And intuition starts the conversation, but the right data through the right medium closes the sale. And I really think the virtual reality is the right medium to understand the why behind it and to put the people inside of the right place at the right time. You don't need, if you have a data analytics, you know all about the dashboards and report. I will argue that you don't need more dashboards for wrong analytics. You need a fewer better signals. And if you're curious what an immersive medium like virtual reality could tell you about your own guests, your current stack can't, that's a conversation worth having. And I think 2 weeks ago, we made a virtual reality configurator, and I would like to show you just a quick, if you're interested in having one of these virtual reality devices inside of the rooms of your hotel, you can do it really easy. And if you go to I need to put the streaming to the other screen. It's gonna be a couple of seconds. So of course, with the technology, I did something. Okay, let's do it like this. And then, okay, this should be good now. So If you go to the VR Hotel official website and configure your VR solution, you can start a new configuration. And this is the great thing because we also put a recommendation for you. If you like this topic and you want to try it by yourself, you can have streamline clicks. Just go continue, understand which license do you need. I will suggest 2 licenses just to start, so you can do A/B testing for the rooms, and then it leads you to choose what's the most, for you, the better options. Um, Not to go into the depth of this configurator, I just want to say, even if you click all of this, you will have the real human that's going to call you and then discuss all the details. And then you will have our own team and me also to understand the analytics behind it. Because I really think if you're already doing any type of analysis or any type of data analytics, then you understand the real power between understanding what do you measure. And I really think that measuring this type of data could be really beneficial and complementary with the tools you already have. Um, it's been around 20 minutes, and I'm famous for speaking really loudly. And the new academic year hasn't started yet, so I'm not really in training. So I hope I wasn't that fast for you and that I had made a point across understanding about a different type of data from different type of medium, and to understand for you as a decision maker, having right data, not big data, is the place to go in hospitality. And I really think, and I will be super proud in the next few months to show you real data from our real clients, how they use this to tailor their offerings inside of their hotels. But just know that the future of hospitality is on micro personalizations of the people in your rooms. It's not always rational because people aren't rational. If you are working in hospitality, you know this, but only now through lenses of behavioral economics and the modern technology, we can understand what lies behind these layers of data on how really people make decisions. So you don't have to lower your prices to increase demand. You just have to ask irrational and better questions. And that's the thing I would like to finish this talk with you. See you on the next VR Hotelo or Vrh talk, and have a nice end of the day. Thanks and bye.